George and Kathy Lutz were ecstatic. They had been searching for the perfect home for months, and finally, their dream seemed to be coming true. They had found their dream home, a beautiful Dutch colonial house at 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, New York. The house was everything they had ever wanted, spacious, charming, and located in a peaceful neighborhood. The price was unbelievably low, almost too good to be true. They couldn't believe their luck. A house like this, at such a price, was a rare find. The real estate agent seemed nervous. Her hands trembled slightly as she handed over the keys, and her eyes darted around as if she expected something to happen. She explained that the house had a troubled past. Her voice was low and hesitant, as if she was reluctant to share the details. A year earlier, the previous owner, Ronald DeFeo Jr., had brutally murdered his entire family inside the home. The news had shocked the entire community. 6 shots, 6 victims, all while they slept. The details were gruesome and chilling, a nightmare that had unfolded within these very walls. The Lutz dismissed the story as a mere tragedy. They believed that the past was the past, and it had no bearing on their future. They were sure they could make a fresh start in the spacious house. They envisioned a bright future filled with love and laughter. Little did they know that the horrors of 112 Ocean Avenue were far from over. The house held secrets that were waiting to be uncovered. They were about to become unwitting players in a terrifying drama. The kind of drama that would test their sanity and their very will to survive. One that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The events that would unfold in the coming days would leave an indelible mark on their souls. On December 18, 1975, the Lutz family moved into their new home. The air was crisp and the ground was covered in a light dusting of snow. Along with them came Kathy's 3 children, Daniel, Christopher, and Melissa, and their dog, Harry. The children were excited about their new rooms and the big backyard where they could play. The family was filled with hope and excitement. They laughed and joked as they unpacked their belongings, eager to settle into their new life. They looked forward to creating happy memories in their new home. They imagined holidays, birthdays, and countless family gatherings in the years to come. They wouldn't have long to wait. The house seemed to come alive at night, with strange noises and unsettling feelings that crept into their minds. The house had other plans. It was as if the very walls held a malevolent force, waiting to reveal itself to its new inhabitants. Soon the Lutz family began to experience inexplicable events. Objects moved on their own, and eerie sounds echoed through the halls. Fear gripped them as they realized that they were not alone. The house was alive with a dark presence that seemed to feed on their terror. Desperate for answers, they sought help from a priest, but even he was unable to cleanse the house of its malevolent energy. In the end, the Lutz family had no choice but to flee. They left behind their dream home, now a place of nightmares, and never looked back. The house at 112 Ocean Avenue remains a chilling reminder of the horrors that can lurk behind closed doors. To this day, it stands as a testament to the dark forces that can reside within even the most beautiful of homes. The murders committed by Ronald DeFeo Jr. were not just a tragic event. They were a catalyst for a series of eerie and unsettling occurrences that would haunt 112 Ocean Avenue for years to come. The house, already steeped in a dark history, seemed to absorb the malevolent energy of that night, casting a long and sinister shadow over 112 Ocean Avenue. On that fateful night in November 1974, DeFeo used a .35 caliber rifle to systematically kill his parents and 4 siblings in their beds. The brutality of the act shocked the nation and left an indelible mark on the house. DeFeo later claimed that voices in the house had compelled him to commit the heinous act. These voices, he said, were relentless, whispering dark commands that he felt powerless to resist. Despite his claims of being influenced by supernatural forces, he was deemed sane and sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences. The court's decision did little to quell the rumors and speculations about the true nature of the house. The Lutz family, unaware of the full extent of the home's gruesome history, moved in shortly after. They hoped to start a new chapter in their lives, but the house had other plans. From the very beginning, the house seemed to have a way of reminding them of its dark past. It was as if the walls themselves were alive, holding on to the memories of the horrors that had taken place within them. Unsettling events began to unfold almost immediately after they moved in. Doors that were securely closed would creak open on their own, as if unseen hands were at work. Doors slammed shut with a force that seemed unnatural, startling the family and leaving them on edge. Foul odors like rotting meat permeated the air, making it difficult to breathe and adding to the sense of unease that hung over the house. Despite the winter cold, swarms of flies appeared, buzzing relentlessly and adding to the growing list of inexplicable phenomena. These were just a taste of the horrors to come. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, voices that were just out of reach yet unmistakably present. The whispers grew louder at night, filling the house with an eerie sense of dread. Unexplained noises like footsteps and knocking echoed through the empty halls. The sounds were so clear and distinct that it felt as if someone or something was moving through the house. The children, especially young Missy, claimed to see things moving in the shadows. They spoke of figures that would appear and disappear, leaving them terrified and confused. Things they couldn't quite describe, but that left a lasting impression on their young minds. The fear in their eyes was unmistakable. The Lutz tried to rationalize these events. They told themselves it was just the stress of the move, the adjustment to a new environment. But as the days turned into weeks, the occurrences became more frequent and more intense. The family found themselves arguing more, the stress taking a toll on their relationships. Deep down, a seed of doubt, of fear, had been planted. They couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong with the house. The sense of being watched, of not being alone, grew stronger with each passing day. Eventually, the Lutz family could no longer endure the torment. They fled the house in the middle of the night, leaving their belongings behind. The house at 112 Ocean Avenue stood empty once more, a silent witness to the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. The story of the DeFeo murders and the subsequent haunting of the Lutz family became the stuff of legend, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most ordinary of homes. Books, movies, and countless articles have been written about the events at 112 Ocean Avenue, each adding to the mystique and fear surrounding the house. Whether one believes in the supernatural or not, the story of the Amityville Horror continues to captivate and terrify. The house remains a symbol of the unknown, a place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs, leaving us to wonder what truly happened within its walls. George Lutz, a man who prided himself on his skepticism, found himself caught in the grip of an unknown force. He had always been a man of reason, someone who dismissed the supernatural as mere superstition, but now, he was living a nightmare that defied all logic and reason. He began waking up at 3:15 a.m. every night without fail. It was as if an invisible hand was shaking him awake, pulling him from the depths of sleep. The eerie consistency of this occurrence was unnerving, to say the least. The same time that DeFeo had committed his horrific crimes, the connection was impossible to ignore. George couldn't help but feel that he was being drawn into the same darkness that had consumed DeFeo. A cold sweat would drench his body, and an overwhelming sense of dread would wash over him. It was as if the very air in the house was charged with malevolence, pressing down on him, suffocating him. He became obsessed with the fireplace, spending hours chopping wood to feed its insatiable hunger. The flames seemed to offer a strange comfort, a flickering light in the oppressive darkness. But even this comfort was fleeting, as the fire seemed to demand more and more from him. The once mild-mannered George was becoming increasingly agitated and prone to fits of rage. His temper flared at the slightest provocation, and his family bore the brunt of his outbursts. It was as if a dark force was taking hold of him, twisting his very nature. His family watched in fear as he transformed into a stranger before their very eyes. The man they loved was slipping away, replaced by someone they barely recognized. The tension in the house was palpable, a constant undercurrent of fear and uncertainty. Something in the house was changing him. It was as if the very walls were alive, whispering dark secrets and feeding on his fear. The house had a presence, a malevolent force that seemed to be growing stronger with each passing day. The children's behavior became increasingly erratic. They were no longer the carefree, happy kids they once were. Instead, they were jumpy, anxious, and prone to sudden outbursts. The house was affecting them too, in ways that were both subtle and terrifying. Missy, who had always been a happy and outgoing child, became withdrawn and terrified. She would spend hours hiding in her room, clutching her stuffed animals and refusing to come out. Her laughter was replaced by silence, her joy by fear. She spoke of an imaginary friend named Jody, a demonic entity that only she could see. Jody was not a comforting presence but a sinister one, filling Missy's mind with dark thoughts and fears. The line between reality and nightmare was becoming increasingly blurred. The other children, Danny and Chris, complained of nightmares and cold spots in their rooms. The house was alive. It was as if the very air was charged with a malevolent energy, seeping into their dreams and turning them into nightmares, and it was feeding on their fear. The house seemed to thrive on their terror, growing stronger and more malevolent with each passing day. The Lutz family was trapped in a living nightmare, with no escape in sight. One evening, as Kathy was preparing dinner, she distinctly heard her name whispered from the living room. The voice was deep and menacing, sending shivers down her spine. She cautiously entered the room, her heart pounding in her chest. The room was empty, yet the feeling of being watched intensified. She could feel something cold and unseen brush past her. The family dog Harry began acting strangely. He would bark incessantly at blank walls and cower in corners, his tail tucked between his legs. Animals are often said to be more sensitive to the supernatural. Was Harry sensing something that the Lutz couldn't? Was he trying to warn them? Then came the slime. A thick, green, foul-smelling substance began oozing from the walls and ceilings. It defied explanation. Priests were called in to bless the house, but their prayers seemed to have no effect. The paranormal activity intensified. The Lutz were trapped in a nightmare, and it was only a matter of time before it consumed them entirely.